Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and we're going to do a sneak peek of Spia, the new Rare Plus water familiar that's likely going to be coming out this week. So let's go ahead and dig in. So Spia is a very powerful water support familiar that has actually received buffs on the Korean side just recently. If you guys aren't aware, Korea has gone through and upgraded a lot of their familiars. So we're going to talk about Spia pre-buff, and then we're also going to talk about Spia post-buff. Most of the time, we do get the familiar abilities from the Korean version of the game, so that is the default version that I am going to be looking into right now. You may see that Spia has different buffs and different abilities if you are looking at Japanese web pages, because the initial launch of the familiars on the JP side actually had reduced abilities from the Korean version until they got updated. So let's go ahead and take a look at Spia's abilities and talk about what makes Spia such a powerful familiar. So we are going to look on the Netmarble webpage that does talk about the upgrades as well here. So originally, the passive ability that Spia had for each water type familiar was going to increase maximum HP by 1% up to 3% at Awakening 7, which is pretty standard, right? That's HP plus 9% if you're running a triple water familiar composition, which most of the time when you are running a water familiar composition, you're probably going to be running Suryu and Crowhawk, or potentially some mixture of Hippocampus as well in there. The second part to this, though, is that for each attacking familiar, increase water damage by 2%. So again, you have so many attack-based familiars for water, you are likely going to get at least plus 4% water damage. This increases at Awakening 7 to plus 4% water damage for each familiar. So just by having Spia in the formation, you are going to get water damage plus 8%. Now, this is important to consider because you do also have Crowhawk, right, which is a 3-star water familiar, which does also give water damage up, but Spia comes with a lot more in the kit, better stats, being a rare plus, potentially, even though, you will probably not have Spia Awaken 10. I imagine Spia will be able to outdamage Crowhawk. With Spia's special ability, though, or active ability, Spia will definitely outdamage Crowhawk, though. Spia's primary ability is going to instantly restore HP 10% of max HP, right? Plus 2000 for 7 seconds. This is pretty normal. However, it is going to give a buff to your attack power by plus 10%. And this is at Awakening 0, so this is very powerful. Being able to give you a 10% attack buff, potentially for 7 seconds, right, is going to be huge. And that's really great. Like, not only is it going to heal you, it's also going to give you an attack buff. And where this really becomes clutch is when you look at the upgrades from the Korean version. And again, I don't know if these upgrades are going to launch with the global version of Spia potentially next week, but it is important to consider that Spia is going to get a buff that is also going to increase when you do your buff to increase your attack. It's also going to increase the attack power of other party members in your party. And it's going to be increased by 25% of the Awakening level buff that you have. So if you have Awakening 0, that's going to give attack power plus 2.5% for allies in your party. And it's going to give, at max level, 5% attack for 7 seconds to allies in your party. So this is exceptionally powerful, especially for party play. This is very good. And I think this no doubt comes with the changes to Field Boss, right? Because we are the Korean version basically made it so that debuffs don't buff other party members, so they needed to buff party members in other ways, and I think that's why we are seeing this type of an update right now. So again, we don't know if this is going to come out on global. This is probably the future of global. If we do get the original version, we are probably going to get this buff version in the future, and we also need to talk about the buff version of the passive, because the passive changes. So the passive does change almost completely. The increased water damage for attacking familiars is still the same, but it becomes a flat buff to max HP for the main character. It's not dependent on the amount of water type familiars in the party. So this maxes out at 8%, it looks like, at Awakening 7, but it also increases your party members' HP as well. So again, very cool, very unique. This might not be in the game yet when Spia launches on global, but this is kind of the future for Spia. And I think no matter what, Spia is going to have a place in formations in the future. Now, Spia does also have some really good familiar arena abilities, and you just saw it on the screen right here. So in familiar arena, Spia is going to heal nearby familiars for a small percentage of their max HP and reduce incoming damage by a moderate percentage. Now, I think this is really good. I think this is really powerful. I think there is a place for Spia in this type of an environment. The problem that it comes down to, though, is it's another water-based familiar, and is it going to be better than the seal for healing, where you may have an awakening, like you're like me and you just keep pulling him no matter what you do? If you keep pulling him and you have an awakened 7 or you have an awakened 10 Toko, right? Is a rare plus 0 awakened familiar actually going to be better than having an awakened 10 Toko or maybe even a Shrimpaler? And kind of, you know, is it gonna be good? I don't know. I'm thinking it will be good. It'll probably be good when you are running familiar adventure in some ways. I think in niche situations it may be good. The barrier does kind of counteract, since it's AoE, it does kind of counteract Kona if you're pulling a lot of copies of him. But I really don't see an Awakened 0 version being really good in familiar arena, especially with Toko, especially with Stagthorn. Although if you are following the Korean news with the changes and upgrades to familiars, Stagthorn is now not nearly as good in familiar arena. It's actually dropping off a little bit because of the changes and the updates that they made to familiars, because familiar arena activation timings were changed as well. And maybe we just need to do a whole separate video on that. Anyway, everybody, let me know down in the comments section if you are excited for Spia. I'm pretty excited for Spia. I don't think I'll pull for her, though, because we do have a really powerful grass familiar coming out after Spia, Earth familiar. Too much Pokemon in my life, too much Pokemon, too much, you know, other games that say grass instead of Earth. But let me know what you think, and I'll talk to you guys next time.